Commander Virell of the Threx Dominion had been trained to meet death with dignity. The Threx were a warrior species, their carapaces inked with the victories of their ancestors, their hearts hardened by centuries of conquest. To be captured alive was the deepest dishonor imaginable. Yet here she was, shackled to a cold steel bench deep inside a Terran battleship, surrounded by the smell of ozone and sterilized metal. Her last memory before the blast doors sealed had been the bridge of her cruiser dissolving in white fire. Human missiles had struck with surgical precision, cutting engines, life support, and weapons in a heartbeat. No Threx commander had ever seen humans fight like that. Efficient, quiet, almost mournful in their lethality. When she awoke, her crew was gone, her armor stripped away, her pride reduced to a chain bolted into the wall. The cell was small, 2 meters across, lightless except for a single glow strip above her head. The air was dry, harsh on her lungs. She expected an interrogator to arrive at any moment, carrying the tools of pain she'd seen used on Threx prisoners before. Humans, she'd been told, had 1,000 ways to make a warrior speak. Footsteps approached. Slow, deliberate, heavy with the unmistakable weight of confidence. The door hissed open, flooding her eyes with light. Human stood there. Male, tall. His skin pale against the dark uniform of the United Terran Fleet. His hair was the color of rust. His expression unreadable. In one hand he carried something soft, folded fabric. No weapon. No instruments. "Commander Virell of the Threx Dominion?" he asked. His voice was even, almost gentle. Virell drew herself up, her 4 hands clenching instinctively. "I am." "Good," the human said. "Name's Cole. I'm your handler for now." Handler. Not interrogator. Not executioner. Virell's mandibles twitched with confusion. "Why am I alive, human?" she demanded. "Your fleet destroyed mine. Take the honor you've earned and end this." Cole looked at her for a long moment, then set the folded fabric down beside her. "Because that's not what we do," he said quietly. "You're a prisoner of war. You'll be treated according to the Terran code." He turned to leave but paused at the threshold. "It's a blanket," he added. "You looked cold." The door closed and the cell fell silent once more. For several minutes, Virell stared at the fabric as though it were a live explosive. No human would waste resources on an enemy's comfort. Had to be some trick. Yet when she reached out and brushed it with a trembling claw, the softness startled her. It was warm, woven from some synthetic fiber she didn't recognize. She pulled it over her shoulders before she realized what she was doing. The warmth sank into her exoskeleton, unfamiliar yet strangely comforting. 3 cycles passed. Each day, the human guard brought her food, nutrient rations, plain but edible, and clean water. He never threatened her, never pried for military codes or battle plans. Sometimes he stayed for a few minutes, sitting just outside the cell, talking to her as though they were comrades waiting out a storm. First she refused to respond. Threx honor forbade conversation with one's captor. But isolation erodes even the sharpest edges of pride. "What do you gain by feeding me?" she asked one day, unable to contain her curiosity. "Every breath I take prolongs your enemy's life." Cole leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "We don't keep prisoners to starve," he said. "You fought well. You deserve respect." Respect. The word hit her like a pulse charge. Among the Threx, defeat erased respect. Only victory preserved worth. For a human to speak of it so casually, even toward a beaten foe, it made no sense. She studied him through the energy barrier. His posture lacked the arrogance she'd seen in other species who'd claimed to be conquerors. Humans carried themselves differently, not soft but tempered like metal that had survived the forge. "I do not understand your kind," Virell admitted finally. Cole smiled faintly. "Most don't at first. We're new to the galaxy. Everyone expects monsters. Are you not?" His eyes met hers. "Sometimes," he said. "But we try not to be." The next week brought changes. The ship docked at a Terran outpost orbiting a dead moon. Through the narrow viewport, Virell saw the devastation of war. Hulks of destroyed ships, some Threx, some human, drifting together in silence. She expected to be transferred to a labor camp. Instead, she found herself escorted to a larger chamber filled with artificial light and breathable air. There, Cole waited again, this time without the barrier between them. Her instincts screamed at her to attack, to reclaim a sliver of lost honor. But her body betrayed her. Exhaustion, malnutrition, and the faint tremor of curiosity rooted her in place. Cole motioned toward a chair. "Sit." "You're not here for punishment," he said. "Command wants to debrief you, but I requested to talk first." "Why?" He hesitated. "Because I watched the battle reports. You didn't flee when your ship was surrounded. You stayed until every last escape pod launched. That's rare." Her mandibles twitched again. "A captain abandons no crew." He nodded. "Same where I come from." For a heartbeat, silence stretched between them. Two soldiers from opposite worlds, united by something older than species. Duty. The conversation stretched for hours. Cole asked about Threx traditions, about the markings carved into her armor, about why her people fought. His questions carried no mockery, only genuine interest. In return, he told her about humanity's first war, about the early days of their expansion, how fragile their worlds had been, how they'd learned the cost of survival. When he spoke, his eyes softened, and Virell felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. No human voice should sound like that, steady, kind, almost intimate. It unsettled her more than any weapon could. That night, back in her quarters, she couldn't sleep. The echoes of his words replayed in her mind. "We try not to be monsters." For the first time since her capture, she wondered if everything the Dominion had taught her about humans was wrong. They were supposed to be destroyers, creatures of chaos that fed on blood and victory. Yet Cole's calm eyes held none of that. Instead, they reflected something dangerous in another way. Empathy. Virell feared it more than any torture. Empathy could unravel a warrior's armor from the inside out. Days bled into weeks. Her injuries healed, her strength returned. And though she told herself to remain distant, she found herself waiting for the sound of his footsteps outside her door. One evening he brought something new, a datapad filled with Terran art, images of oceans, forests, creatures unlike anything in Threk's memory. "Why show me this?" she asked. "Because it's what we fight for," he replied. "Not conquest. Not dominance. Just the chance to build, to feel, to live." Virell traced a claw over the glowing screen, stopping on the image of a human child smiling beside a dog. A small, harmless creature. Soft, trusting. "Your kind nurtures weakness," she murmured. Cole shook his head. "No. We protect it. There's a difference." She didn't argue. She couldn't. That night, as the lights dimmed and silence fell again, Virell sat alone, clutching the blanket he'd first given her. Once, she had expected death from the human. Swift, efficient, merciless. Instead, he'd given her warmth, patience, understanding. Things she'd never known she lacked. She wasn't sure whether it was mercy or something far more dangerous. And somewhere deep within, the first crack appeared in the armor of Commander Virell of the Threx Dominion. Part 2: The Human's Way. Virell awoke to the wail of alarms. The ship trembled violently, lights flickering as emergency bulkheads sealed. Instinct took over. She rolled from the cot, bracing against the wall as the floor shuddered beneath her. Somewhere down the corridor, voices barked orders in English. Explosions echoed closer this time. Then she heard it, the distinct high-pitched hum of Threx plasma rifles. Her heart froze. Her own people were boarding. The door to her quarters hissed open, and Cole appeared half-armored, a pulse rifle slung across his chest. His face was smeared with smoke, his eyes sharp. "They're here for you," he said. "A Dominion strike team. They cut through our outer decks. We need to move." "I can reason with them," Virell insisted, stepping forward. "They'll stand down if they know I'm alive." Cole shook his head. "No. They're not here to rescue. They're here to erase evidence of defeat. If they find you, they'll kill you before they kill us." For a moment, Virell couldn't speak. Her own people would rather see her dead than captured. The realization burned deeper than any wound. Cole extended his hand. "Come on. I'm not leaving you behind." The words made something inside her fracture. Against every instinct screaming at her to resist, she took his hand. They moved fast through the smoke-filled corridors. Human crew rushed past them, sealing blast doors, rerouting power, shouting codes into comms. Cole guided her with surprising gentleness, staying between her and danger, even when plasma bolts scorched the walls nearby. Virell's mind raced. Every Threx instinct screamed that she should be the one protecting him. She was a warrior. He was a soft-skinned mammal. Yet it was the human shielding her, turning back to return fire. His movements practiced and precise. A blast tore through a junction ahead, sending debris raining down. Cole shoved her to the floor, taking the brunt of the impact across his shoulder. He groaned but didn't stop moving. "Cole," she hissed, catching his arm. "You're injured." "Not dead," he grunted, pulling her to her feet. "Let's keep it that way." They reached an auxiliary hangar where escape pods waited. Cole keyed in an override, but the console buzzed red. "Manual lockout," he muttered. Bridge sealed the pods to stop boarders escaping. Virell turned toward the corridor, hearing the distant hiss of approaching Threx armor. Her jaw tightened. "Then we hold the line." Cole gave a grim smile. "Knew you'd say that." They set up cover behind cargo crates. The air shimmered with heat as plasma bolts seared through. Cole fired bursts from his rifle, each one precise. Virell grabbed a fallen human sidearm. It was heavier than she expected, built for hands not her own, but it roared with power she hadn't felt in any Threx weapon. For 10 minutes they fought side by side. The corridor became a furnace of fire and metal. Virell's carapace smoked where shots grazed her, but she didn't falter. She was fighting not for the Dominion, not for honor. She was fighting because this human refused to abandon her. When the last of the Threx assault team fell, silence hung over the chamber. Cole leaned against the wall, panting, blood seeping through his armor. "Guess that's one way to build trust," he said with a strained smile. Virell dropped the weapon, her claws trembling. "You risked your life for me," she whispered. "Yeah," he said. "That's kind of what humans do." The aftermath was chaos. The Threx boarding ship had been destroyed, but at a cost. Half the human crew was wounded, 2 decks vented to vacuum. Yet even then, Cole stayed by her side, refusing medical attention until she was secured. When she finally confronted him in the medbay hours later, her voice trembled with something that wasn't anger. "You should have let me die," she said quietly. It would have been easier. Cole looked up from the cot where he sat, his shoulder bandaged. Easier isn't always right, he said. You're alive because you deserve to be. Because you're more than a war. His words hit harder than any plasma bolt. Days passed. The Dominion made no rescue attempt. The human fleet left the system, carrying its wounded and its prisoners, including one confused Threx commander whose beliefs had begun to crumble. Virell found herself visiting Cole's quarters often. He showed her things, old Terran songs, stories, images of a blue planet that seemed like legend. Each one chipped away another piece of the armor around her soul. One night, she found herself asking the question she'd avoided since capture. Why are you kind to me? Cole looked at her, eyes tired but warm. Because if I stop seeing the person in front of me, I become everything we fight against. Virell didn't know what to say. She had expected death from the human, cruelty, domination. Instead, he'd given her something far stranger. Understanding. When the transfer orders came, they were to take Virell to a neutral colony for exchange negotiations. She stood in the docking bay, hands clasped, while Cole oversaw her escort. I suppose this is goodbye, she said, her voice low. For now, he replied. Maybe next time it won't be on opposite sides. She hesitated, then reached out one of her hands. He took it without fear. His grip was warm, steady. You've changed what I thought of your species, she admitted. Perhaps what I thought of my own. Then maybe we both did something right, he said. As the shuttle lifted away, Virell watched the human ship shrink in the viewport. The stars glimmered coldly around her, but inside something new burned. A quiet warmth that no training could extinguish. She was a warrior still, but now she carried something different within her. The memory of a human who showed her that mercy was not weakness, that compassion could wound deeper than any blade, and that even in the vast war-torn void of the galaxy humanity's greatest weapon was its heart. And for the first time in her long battle-scarred life, Commander Virell of the Threx Dominion smiled. Because she had expected death from the human. But he had given her something far greater. Life.